Welcome back in our second video of learning to get power and higher healing from higher dimensions. When people meditate, something or other changes, and over a period of time, they begin to open up psychic skills. They get more information from seemingly other dimensions, or they have visions, information comes to them, they have premonitions, they know things that defy logic. So in other words, one way to get to other dimensions is to go within. Spending regular time meditating expands your consciousness. Think of it as you get still, you open other little portals. They somehow cleanse and allow energy to flow back and forth. When you meditate on higher dimensional beings, like some people love to talk with Archangel Michael and have pictures and have conversations in their mind and in their imagination, I suggest that during those times you actually connect with that essence, and whenever you connect, you exchange information and communicate. So yes, you're getting communications, but you're also getting little bits, morsels, tasty snacks of their energy. One way in which you can connect to other dimensions is to use your right brain hemisphere. In the right brain hemisphere, you don't use language. It's the big picture. It sees the universe and all the connectivity. In contrast, the left brain sees organization, language, numbering of things, ordering, sequencing, managing, arranging smaller items. So one way to spend more time in your right brain hemisphere is to use something like a sound and light machine. I have these little things on my site, Jill Swings of Light, but there's a variety of them. But let me just tell you how they work. They're little sound machines that control your brainwaves, and this is how it works. When you have a little sound, just like right here, it'll bounce off this ear and this side of the head and then bounce that way. And likewise, a little sound right here is going to hit in the ear, it's going to bounce off here and go that way. So if it sounds close enough, this ear gets exclusive hearing. Likewise, this one does too, much like headphones. The brain's somewhat confused because although we're not aware of it, we hear in surround sound. We hear it all. The brain's used to hearing the same frequency in both ears. So what this causes when it's in a pretty low pitched range and the pitches aren't that far apart so that the waves interact, it forces your left brain hemisphere and your right brain hemisphere to open up, which puts you into whole brain. Like, woohoo, that's really cool because you're taking up your intelligence. You're not just being able to manage the logical and sequential flow, but the big picture all at the same time. Powerful skill. And the more you do it, the more it becomes your habit. So the more you use the little device, or you can do them on CDs as well, the more it becomes a habit. So when you have these different tones, your brain then will hear the difference between the two cycles per second or frequencies. So if you got 20 cycles per second exclusively in this ear, and the exclusive here is 10, you're going to hear the difference, or 10 cycles per second. That's not too exciting. But the fact that you're now operating fully charged with both brain hemispheres going at once is very, very cool. It's called binaural beats. Now, in just a minute, your brain waves, because all this is going through the brain hemispheres, will match. So it's used to take you to very deep meditative states. Some monks have been quoted as saying they can do with headphones and binaural beats or a sound and light machine what someone can do, or a monk could do in 20 years to learn for deep meditation. I like the sound and light machines because you close your eyes and the frequencies go right in through your eyes. You see all kinds of colors, and although colors are not flashed on your closed eyes. And to me, it's very powerful. I felt like electricity going different places. I felt like I was opening up my brain. And after using my little device for a little over a year, I had all the psychic skills. So I was incredibly excited about the impact of this. My girlfriend did the same thing, had absolutely no psychic skills. And probably within about 6 months, she was off and running, accessing information from all kinds of dimensions. Now, I did have to remind her that when the change in her life occurred was after she had done quite a bit of listening to binaural beats. So there's a really exciting way to open up to more information, consciousness, and awareness. Another way to do that, now this is really on the cheap, would be to recall that we're somewhat cross-wired. So if we hear a sound here this would be my right ear, I'm going to interpret it in my left brain hemisphere. Conversely, if I hear something in my left ear, I'm going to interpret it into my right brain hemisphere. So something as easy as putting cotton in this ear, that's going to force sound to go in and trigger my right brain, which is the expansive place where I see big picture and connectivity. So that's cool. Another thing is I'm going to talk about Lama Yoga. And Lama Yoga is an ancient technique of using your spine as if it was an antenna, like a radio antenna. The bigger, longer the radio antenna is, the more signals it picks up. With subtle energy, that would be cranial sacral energy, tiny subtle energy that would flow from the base of our spine to the top, is important to our body in many ways. It's very important with cranial sacral therapy, acupuncture, qigong, tai chi. All these disciplines are opening up your channels of subtle energy. And the main highway, if you will, is your spine. So with Lama Yoga, you imagine sound and you make sounds at the same time. So I'm going to do a low sound when I'm imagining at the base of my spine, like and as I kind of almost a grunt for the bass, low pitch in your voice, I'm going to take it up. And surprisingly, when I first did it, I took it up, but then my voice would stop. That's because my voice hit a subtle energy blockage. And I just needed to keep doing it. And it was kind of like, here's the blockage. And I would kind of imagine and almost like squeeze my butt and imagine it kind of the energy going up. And over time, I began to just kind of open up my spine. For me, I did this about 15 minutes a day for 3 months. Maybe some of you won't need that kind of time, but I did. And the response to that was really, really transformative. There's many ways. Those are just a few. Okay, next, I'm going to talk about entrainment. I believe this is a natural way to have frequencies and energies travel between dimensions. The Dutch scientist Christian Huygens, think about 1665, was credited with the idea of entrainment. If you have two clocks close by and their pendulums are going at different rates, one is louder, within minutes the other one will match it so that both pendulums will be identical. This can occur when one system you have to have at least one with a constant frequency to entrain the other, and one has enough power to overcome the other. And both systems must be capable of achieving the same beat rate. And also, your body works on rhythm patterns. Your breath, circulation, heartbeat, digestion, body processes, they're all a rhythm. And when they're healthy, they're always in a very precise rhythm, usually a rhythm that matches harmonic pitches, kind of like they dovetail. So, anyway, entrainment can alter your feelings. Think of maybe being a little down and then having a happy, joyful beat, and all of a sudden want to kind of, just go with it. It changes your mood. It can take you from a positive or a negative state to a positive one, or vice versa. It can calm you down. Think of the ocean rhythm. Everybody at the beach, their heart is slowed down, and we're just going in the same rhythm as that of the waves. That's why the beach is so relaxing and sought after for a vacation. Okay, now we're going to go in another very natural, easy way for energy to transfer, and in my opinion, between dimensions or levels or pitches or wave pools, whatever. It's a loose definition of dimension. Okay, resonance would be the frequency that something vibrates at. Everything's energy, so everything's going to have an average frequency. It's going to have a certain resonance. That's why when the opera singer sings a high note, for a long time, the crystal glass shatters. Now, it doesn't happen all the time because she must be singing the high note to match the resonance of the crystal glass. The energy transfers occur. It gets too much that it can't hold it anymore, and kaboom, it blows up. Okay. So in resonance, sympathetic resonance, I want you to think of a violin and a violin. And this one, let's say you pluck the E string. You don't touch this one. This E string sounds. So in my kind of simple way of thinking, this energy transfers over here, or this energy sounds and this energy picks it up, perhaps like a radio antenna. And we all know how this affects us. Try going to a horror movie with no music. It's almost laughable. It's certainly not scary. It's the music that makes it wonderful. Think about how we have a transfer between our emotions and our physical body, just like we have a transfer between music and emotions. I'm suggesting that sound can kind of weave in and out of these different wave pools, if you will. For example, we worry, a negative emotion, and if we do it enough, it's going to, through resonance, transfer to something else in our body that has the same resonant frequency, just like the two violins, where the energy of the same musical note transferred. So it so happens that worry has the same resonant frequency as the lining in our tummy. So if we worry enough, there comes the ulcer, boring a little hole right in our physical body, showing the mind-body connection, the energy traveling on sound. Okay. Just now, I want you to think about the electromagnetic spectrum. And that's just a chart that you see 0 cycles per second of energy to as high as we can count. And it's kind of like a thermometer. It goes from 1 to 2, 3, and up to these high numbers. And then on this chart, you see things like, okay, here's the spectrum, the cycles per second where you can hear. And here's the cycles per second that you can see. Here's X-rays, gamma rays, and so forth. And I'd like to suggest that it's a whole lot better if we think of that electromagnetic spectrum in a spiral, not a flat two by four, I guess rectangular diagram. So I want you to think of it like a spectrum, a spiral. See that little spiral right there? Here's another little spiral. So if you had a musical note C, it would transfer to something else that's a musical note C, and also an octave of the musical note C. So on this chart, this would be low C, middle C, high C, and energy would transfer through the C's or through the octaves. It's called octave sympathetic resonance or octave resonance. With that thought in mind, every emotion has a different resonant frequency. So our realm of emotions is like a whole color palette of portholes to different areas in our body. And another way of saying it is every frequency is a porthole between our bodies, our thoughts, our feelings, and I'd suggest even higher dimensions. That energy can go up and down through resonance. So we wonder where all these dimensions are, and we're one big portal. How cool is that? So there's several ways to get more information through these portholes. And if we are such a big porthole factory, conglomerate, why aren't we aware of more of the dimensions around us? Okay, so the next section, we're going to talk about how we block flow of information into our awareness. Number one, pain. Pain represents a blockage of energy. If you cut your finger, if you have arthritis, if you have a headache, anything in pain will call attention to the blockage of energy. The ego is another thing that's very good at stopping information flow. Both of them really, I think, being too egotistical or being insecure stem from not feeling worthy enough, in my opinion. You brag if you don't feel worthy enough to cover up the fact that you don't feel worthy. So to me, both versions of not having a good sense of self, a good feeling about who you are. If you feel crappy about yourself, you start to block the flow. Opinion. Think of life as like, it's just like again, we're on the spiral. I think of it as a movie, the movie film, and if we play it, it looks like a seamless picture, but really, it's just these little blocks of time, one after another. And when we make a choice, have an opinion or judgmental, it's like we stop the movie and we say, okay, stop right there. I think this or that, and I'm not going to be open to another greater definition or idea. I don't like that, so I'm not going to be open to any more information that might change my mind. Or I even choose this. Here's all these things I don't like, but I'm choosing this one. Or here's all these things I like, but this is one I'm going to be stuck on because I like this. All these kind of things block the flow of energy. Think of a stream, brook in water. And as it flows, it kind of bends and goes all different shapes and sings as it runs downhill. Yet if it gets stuck, it gets kind of stagnant, which goes with our analogy. The flow stops, the energy gets stagnant, and so I guess what I'm saying is in order to get the information, the fresh, vitalizing information from many dimensions, We need to be like the river, not the stuck piece of water, for whatever reason. Okay. Another way to open up connectivity to other realms and dimensions, even though it is at times beyond our awareness, is prayer. Think of meditation as receiving, and prayer is talking. Okay? Kind of like two spectrums, or two ends of one spectrum. A multitude of studies was done, and I read a book by, I believe it was Charles Sweet, on prayer, and they did a pile of studies. The subjects were plants, and there were tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of experiments and plants done over a long period of time. They started by praying for the plants and getting statistical analysis to show that praying influenced the health of the plant. Then they started asking more questions. I guess they weren't stuck. They started putting the prayers in another room. And then they would pray, and they found that that also influenced the plants. So you can positively pray for someone who's not around, and it still works. Space doesn't seem to get in the way. So then they started lying to the people who were praying. So they would overwater the plants, and they're in danger of dying from root rot. They need to dry out to live. They sneak into the room with the prayers, and they would lie and say, they're starving, we haven't watered them, and they need water to live. Then they found that the rate that the prayed for plants died was way higher than ones that had been left alone. So even though the prayers had very good intent, and they perhaps really wanted to help that plant, instead they killed it. Because the prayer worked, whether we are conscious or not of the impact of our prayer. Got a story for you. My mother-in-law, Pat, was walking down her hall, and I saw like black smoke coming out of her lower belly. It was a psychic kind of a thing. I knew that meant very serious health issues. Within a week, she was in the hospital prepping for heart surgery. She was 72 at the time. The whole community prayed for her. Everybody prayed for her heart, for successful heart surgery, for the repair of her heart, for the health of her heart. And she went a very serious operation, came through with flying colors, and the next week she died from her kidney failure, where I had seen the dark energy radiating from her in the first place. So the people didn't kill her with their prayers, but perhaps they weren't praying for the most important thing. They didn't know what was the most important thing. And back to our original about flowing with the energy. The best type of prayers that are ones that are open. Ones that don't say, you got to have this teeny weeny result, you know? And so in other words, in these prayer studies, they did a final experiment in which they had done something nasty to the plants, and they didn't tell the prayers what it was. They just said, hey, we're not telling you what we did. It's just something. And then they prayed, just help whatever way you can, spirit flow in their prayer. And then again, they were able to positively improve the health of the plant, showing that when we try to control an outcome in a situation, the smaller we narrow things in, the less chance we have for success, because we have a very narrow way of perception, and the universe, our energy flows quite broad, so we miss a lot. And here's a story. It's about my friend Mary. And Mary and I made a double dare, and we decided that within 10 days we were going to manifest something. Mary manifested hers within a couple of days. And I was going to manifest a rose. And on the 10th day, I was getting very, very nervous. And it was way back when one of my sons was in college. And we were visiting. It was towards the end of the day. And it's heavy on my thought. Where's my rose? Where's my rose? And then I just got this real strong message. Rose is going to be up at the next block. So I left everybody, went to the next block, and it's in the city. There's no garden. There's no little flower pot. I'm looking around for a rose, waiting for someone to hand me one. And along comes a big old smelly truck. And it was a floral delivery truck. And no, it didn't stop, and it didn't give me a rose, and I didn't see a real rose. But the advertisement had pictures of roses. There it was. I requested, expected a physical rose, though I didn't ask for that. So I could have easily understood the answer to my prayer, my manifest. I'm saying rose now, and I got a rose now, but my little narrow perception, I said, okay, it's going to be this kind of rose, which I didn't clarify earlier. And voila, I could have missed it. So the universe will deliver in surprising ways we couldn't even conceive, and better ways, more efficient ways, and we just have to be open so we don't block the flow, so we can receive the communication and the energy coming in from perhaps another dimension. Notice Jesus says, thy will be done, meaning not my will, thy will. So he's opening up and allowing the bigger picture and the flow to go through them. Okay, downloads, just a way of coining a word to talk about getting a packet of energy from a very beneficial source. They can occur from resonance. They can occur from contact with a higher being. They can occur from entrainment. They can occur from prayer. Just kind of think of like prayer being a water pistol, and it's got like a sticky flow, and so like you think it, you link it, you connect the energy, and this is kind of like an add-on here. Let's say you pray for someone, and you pray for them to have confidence in an upcoming event. So you think it, you link it, you send them this prayer. Prayers always get answered. The confidence, the energy, the prayer that you send, if done properly, will reside in their aura. And if you could see an aura perhaps from a higher dimension, you would see some people's auras look like Christmas trees. People have prayed for them. They get these pockets of joy and good things. But you have to receive them. Receiving is an action. It's much more than a passive action. Sitting around like this is kind of like closing your doors for energy. To receive, it's a feeling. You pretend you're receiving a gift, or somebody's inviting you to something, or somebody's giving. You have to open your door, and we're going to put the word receive to describe the fact that you have to allow energy in. Another way to allow energy in is to use gratitude. Gratitude is just like a porthole. Okay, so we're going to summarize being in the flow, following feelings of light and joy, allowing emotions to change and develop and just see where they go without judgment, without opinion, being open, not being attached to specific outcomes. A good way to do it is to ask for information or ask for the highest and best, and to raise your consciousness, such as doing a Lama yoga or many other different techniques to bring in higher energies. Okay, that's it for this video. Namaste.